All right, well, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Thank you everyone for your patience and sorry for the delay. We are here today to conduct an informal public hearing regarding an appeal of a special event permit that was issued under Battleground Municipal Code 8.36. The process that we're going to follow today is as follows. It will not be longer than an hour in length, and findings will be provided in writing after the conclusion of the hearing per Battleground Municipal Code 8.36.0. I'll start by giving the background information for why we are here, and then I'll provide time for the appellant and the applicant to speak. One representative from Southwest Washington Communities United for Change will have a chance to address their reason for the appeal and will be given up to 15 minutes. The applicant, Mr. Gibson, will then be given 15 minutes to address his concerns with the appeal. I will then allow an additional 5 minutes for both parties for a rebuttal to the other sides. At that time, we'll close the hearing, and written findings will be issued by Friday, March 29th by 12 p.m. I ask that everyone be respectful and courteous during this hearing. I know there are a lot of emotions attached to this topic. Testimony needs to be limited to information relevant to the Battleground Municipal Code 8.36 special event permits. That is the only area I have the authority to rule on today and the only information I can take into account when making this decision. So for the background, we'll go ahead and get started. A special event permit application was received from Mr. Gibson on behalf of Patriot Prayer on March 25th, 2019 for an assembly at Kiwanis Park on Sunday, March 31st, 2019. The permit indicated the event to set up at 10 a.m. and the event to be held until 6 p.m. The permit for this event was approved and issued on March 27th, 2019. The approval was sent to Mr. Gibson via email. Just in quick summary of the staff report, that is the approval for the permit. Some of the staff notes: health, safety, and access. There's adequate access on both public roads on Southwest 4th Street and Southwest 2nd Avenue for emergency vehicles should they be needed. Battleground Police will follow the applicable support for this event as they have during previous events. Liability insurance, the applicant providing sufficient liability insurance for the event. And the City Public Works Department will open restroom facilities at 10 a.m. and will lock restroom facilities at 6. There were conditions of approval on the permit, and those 1 through 6 are as follows. There shall be no parking space reserved or blocked off for the event, and all parking is based on a first-come, first-served basis. In addition, parking shall not block any entrances to the park. Joey Gibson has indicated himself as the responsible person to be on-site and available at all times. The permitted group will be responsible for leaving the facilities clean and in good order, with garbage and recyclable materials placed in proper receptacles and removed from the site. The applicant is responsible for ensuring that noise levels do not exceed 60 decibels for the BGMC 17.131.090. And restrooms at Kiwanis Park cannot be reserved or blocked off for this event and shall remain open to the public. The applicant has not requested any road closures for this event and shall therefore ensure that public right-of-ways shall remain clear for emergency vehicle access during the event. There's also language regarding the appeal process included in the permit approval. The city then received an appeal, and it's titled Appeal to the City of Battleground Park Permit Issuance for a Proposed Event at Kiwanis Park on 3/39/2019. The appeal was delivered in person and via email on Monday, March 25th, 2019, and was filed by Southwest Washington Communities United for Change. To summarize the appeal, it seems this document constitutes an appeal to the City of Battleground Parks and Recreation Director and appointed park hearing officer and city manager regarding the city's decision to approve a special event permit to applicants for assembly on Sunday, March 31st, 2019 at Kiwanis Park. We show that the proposed event does not meet the standards of Battleground Municipal Code 8.36.050, can be reasonably determined to present grounds for denial or revocation, and correspondingly was not given adequate time for proper processing prior to issuance. Therefore, the appellant questions whether all the provisions for the special event permit have been met, such as parking, waste management, restroom facilities, security, public health, safety, and liability. So with that background information, we're going to move into the testimony regarding this appeal. So first up, I believe we have Ms. Wago from Southwest Washington Communities United for Change. Go ahead.
Okay, hello. We are actually here representing United BG, and I've personally lived in Battleground for 21 years. To address any misunderstanding about who we are and why we are here, we are actually not SWCUC. We use SWCUC's address because we don't have one, we needed one, and because they help people like us who need help.
So you're fired.
Can you read again who submitted the appeal based on your information?
So the appeal is submitted to the City of Battleground for United BG citizens of the City of Battleground with the mailing address of the Southwest Washington Community.
Thank you. We are not Antifa, we are not gun grabbers or communists. We are definitely not from Portland. We are a coalition of Battleground mothers and dads who live and raise children here, send our kids to school, go to work, use, and also pay for Battleground city parks. Just to be clear, this is a proceeding that pertains to whether or not Kiwanis Park is an appropriate venue for the proposed large rally on March 31st. It has nothing to do with suppressing the applicant's First Amendment rights. So if you've come here to see that show, you are going to be very disappointed and also maybe a little bored. Our concern today is not with Mr. Gibson. To quote directly from our appeal, we support everyone's First Amendment right to freedom of speech and assembly.
Why are we here?
That inalienable right is separate from the issuance of city permits for the utilization of public spaces. Our appeal is on behalf of our public safety and adherence to city and state laws. Battleground ordinances are in place to ensure that permit requests are appropriate to the proposed venue and not in conflict with public interest. The case for our appeal is directly to the city and how the city handled, in the first place, the lack of permit application. And in second, a very late permit application with only 6 days of notice until the event date, which came only after we inquired about whether there was a permit application. The case for our appeal has nothing to do with the fast tracking. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me read that one more time. The case for our appeal has to do with the fast tracking of the permit approval, which was completely unnecessary and circumvented city ordinances that have been established to ensure the public welfare. It is true that if the park permit in question was for, say, Anderson Dairy Annual Company Picnic, it probably wouldn't have attracted our attention as a coalition of concerned citizens. It is true that there is a well-established history of prior demonstrations by the applicant of this permit, particularly in the city of Portland, that has shaped our interest in the proper handling of the proposed event. I am now going to refer to specific language found in relevant case law decisions. I will raise my hand when using specific case law findings. This will help avoid confusion and indicate when I am speaking about legal precedent versus our opinion. The case of Coalition to March versus the City of St. Paul, 2008, found that there is a significant governmental interest in protecting attendees at high-profile political functions and the public in general against the potential for violent demonstrations. Restrictions on public access are reasonably tailored to places where law enforcement personnel and delegates are most likely to be found. The case found that the First Amendment does not guarantee the right to communicate one's views at all times and places or in any manner that may be desired. ACLU v. Denver, 2008, found that even in a traditional public forum, the government may impose reasonable restrictions on time, place, and manner of protected speech. A speaker's desire to control all of the conditions that affect his or her message occasionally must yield or adequate alternatives exist. In other words, choosing a venue that is appropriate for a high-profile political event is not a violation.
Can we please refrain from talking from the audience? This is their 15 minutes to discuss their appeal. Thank you.
In other words, choosing a venue that is appropriate for a high-profile political event is not a violation of First Amendment rights. It is reasonable to redirect political events towards locations that have high security and proximity to city officials. So for instance, outside of City Hall, close to the police station could be a more appropriate choice for the proposed high-profile political event. Provision for public safety is a priority concern of any city. In case law pertaining to the park's permitting issue as it relates specifically to freedom of speech, Thomas v. Chicago Park District, 2002, found that the purposes of the Park District's permit system are to coordinate multiple uses of limited space, to assure preservation of the park facilities, to prevent uses that are dangerous, unlawful, or impermissible under the park district rules, and to assure financial accountability for damage caused by an event. To allow unregulated access to all park facilities could easily reduce, rather than enlarge, the park's utility as a forum for speech. Regulations on the use of a public forum that ensure the safety and convenience of the people are one means of safeguarding the good order upon which civil liberties depend. In other words, ensuring public safety is essential ground for preserving First Amendment rights. Similarly, United for Peace and Justice for City of New York 2003 found that, due to a short time frame between the submission of a permit request and the date for a proposed march, the city had insufficient time to prepare security volunteers or group leaders of the prospective demonstrators. The city believed that a large crowd could lead to dangerous surges, creating a continued risk of injury to participants, especially children. Consequently, the city denied the request for a permit for a march, but allowed a stationary rally. In other words, it is inappropriate to work with applicants for permits to ensure their right. In other words, it is appropriate to work with applicants for permits to ensure their right to speak and assemble while keeping public safety a top priority. Because of the fast tracking of this event, we believe that the city has potentially grossly misunderestimated the attendance for this event. The park permit is approved for 100 people, and there has not been sufficient inquiry into the possibility or preparation for a much larger crowd. Advertisements for the event have been live on radio throughout the Portland metropolitan area, which creates not only the potential for a much wider attendance, but also possible presence of counter-protesters. Because of the fast tracking of this event, we believe not enough time and consideration has been given to the permitting process for this event. As of yesterday, per our conversation with the city manager, the city attorney had not been consulted regarding the essential balance of free speech with public safety concerns. The city is erring on the side of protecting itself from litigation rather than protecting its citizens and taxpayers without even consulting the relevant case law. Due to the fast tracking of this event permit, the city manager has not appointed a parks hearing officer to oversee this hearing, as it is required by city ordinance. In essence, we are concerned that this proceeding is not in alignment with city ordinance. We're deeply disappointed with how the city has handled the permitting process for this event. In not slowing down to take proper care with this process, the city has opened itself up to liability should any incidents, such as property damage or personal injury, occur at the proposed rally, the financial consequences of which will ultimately fall upon us, your taxpayers. Holding a permit appeal hearing 3 days prior to the proposed event has an air of futility, and another unfortunate consequence is the inappropriate fast tracking of the permit approval. Nevertheless, we ask you to please consider our appeal to revoke this specific permit and instead work with the applicant to find a more appropriate venue, date, and event plan that maintains the public welfare as top priority. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Joe Gibson. I'm founder of Patriot Prayer. I'm an American. I love this country. I believe in free speech. I'm a free speech advocate. I'm fighting for the rights of every single individual in this room, no matter who it may be. I believe in freedom so much, and I want you to think about something. A couple of years ago, I decided I had enough, and I'm going to begin to start throwing rallies and standing up for what I believe in, and the pushback has been absolutely amazing. This is, without a doubt, another attempt by people to try to shut down my message for what I've been preaching. And I've been preaching the same thing for the last 2 years. And it's been about freedom, and it's been about God. And that is it. I don't understand what I've said that is so bad. I would like to hear one thing that I've ever said. All I've been trying to do is fight for this country and to give people a voice. I'm trying to give Battleground a voice. There are so many people in this city who believe in freedom and who believe in God. I'm trying to work them. I'm trying to give them a voice. We're going to show up to Kiwanis Park because I already have my permit. I have the First Amendment. I have the Constitution. We've been there 3 weeks in a row, not one problem. Not one. Because it isn't Portland, like where they're from. Okay? This isn't Portland. This is a completely different place. And I would like just one example of hate speech on my part. Just one. Even if I did have hate speech, we still have a right to the Constitution. This is nothing more than an attempt for people to silence me. That's all it is. That's all it's been the entire time. They try to shut down my commercials. And what I want to know is, what are people so afraid of? What is it that is so scary about what I say? Our country was built upon free speech, the right to have a free flow exchange of ideas, concepts, beliefs, debates. We have to be able to have the right to just simply speak our minds. It is not okay. It is morally corrupt and perverted to try to silence people. It is not okay. I just want to have a voice. That's all I'm here for. That's why I'm here in Battleground.